Normally when I make a video for YouTube, I'm not quite sure what I'm going to talk about until the very last minute. And then I might have to look up some facts very quickly. Just pertinent facts, that's all. And then just have a quick chat about it. I live on tea, by the way. I don't smoke or drink, even though I do like the taste of whiskey and such like. I tend to stay away from those things, as I do have a bit of an addictive nature. But today I thought I might as well talk about my time in my 20s when I became a removal man. It was such fun to do removals. I had two 17-year-olds with me. Both of them were friends. And one of them, he looked like a boxer. He had a boxer's nose and cauliflower ears and a sort of flat face. I don't know if he really had a flat face. Maybe it was because of the nose which gave him that look. But he had a boxer's look. And he was dangerous. He was a psychopath. He used to like to torture animals to death. Just for fun, that's all. And he told me his brother was worse than he was. And it was his brother, when he was 12, I think, or 11 or 12, maybe 11, it was his brother who showed him what fun it can be in torturing animals to death. I remember once I did meet his brother, and I had to shake his hand. I didn't really want to shake it because I knew that hand had committed so many evil crimes. Of course, in our society, they're not really crimes, are they? Humans tend to not look upon the suffering of other creatures as crimes. They only care about the suffering of other humans. Anyway, let's get back to the job. I was not only helping to remove furniture from people's places, but also I was the driver of the van. Now the van was fairly big. It was a proper removal van with a low back, where you pull it down, and then it would become a sort of a walkway where you walk straight up onto the van itself, which must have been about, I don't know, 2 feet from the ground at the most. So I just had a normal license, but in those days, when I was in my 20s, we're talking about the 70s. In those days, there wasn't so many strict regulations about, so you could drive much bigger and heavier vehicles than you can today on the same license I've got. Anyway, I never told those two that the brakes weren't working properly. The brakes were just too small for the van, or the wheels were too small for the van. One or the other, I don't know what it was. The wheels did look a bit small on that van, but yeah, it didn't work properly. The only way I could slow down if we were travelling quite fast was by shifting down in the gears. They never knew this. But every time I'm having to slow down as quick as possible because I don't want to smash into the cars ahead of me, I'm quite nervous. I'm thinking, can I slow down quick enough? It's only when we got down to a really slow speed that the brakes worked. Something like 10 or 15 miles an hour. But the psychopath, I think his name was John. It was either John or Dave. And he told me that, it might have been John, he told me that his girlfriend left him when he was 15, I think, at the time. His girlfriend was about 15. I mean, you're always going on, aren't you, in society, that girls should go out with their own age group. And I've never agreed with that, especially girls, considering that they're 10 years ahead of boys when it comes to behaviour. And boys at 15 are terrible. Normally they are, unless they're these types who like to get their nose into a book. But after being a year together, I think they met probably when they was 13 or 14, and after a year of being together, a year or so, she left him. He was so broken-hearted, he went around there and kicked her to death. Well, he walked away, believing she was dead. That's why he walked away. He intended to kill her. She was very lucky she did live. And the police got called in, and she was in hospital for some time. But she dropped the case out of fear. So the police couldn't take it any further. Now these days, if a girl drops the case, it doesn't get dropped. The police carry on. She dropped it because she knew that if she didn't, he would have a second go at killing her and possibly kill her family as well. He was well capable of doing it. This boy, well, he wasn't a boy, he was a young man, a very tough young man. When he was a child, he was a bully. And he said he had 2 other bullies with him. The 3 of them used to wait in the boys' toilets in school for kids to come in, and they would grab these kids and force them to lick the piss off their shoes or boots, whatever they were wearing. I forgot I got that on. It's been a bit cold today. So, and also they enjoyed sticking boys' heads down the toilet, especially if the toilet was a bit dirty, you know, and then pulling the chain on them as well. Anything they could think of which was nastiness. But he said after a year or so, he got fed up and he turned against the 2 boys. Well, one of the boys did drink the piss off the floor, but the other one, he only kissed his shoes, but he wouldn't drink the piss off the floor. And he said that he had great respect for that other boy. Even though he beat him badly, he refused to drink the piss off the floor. Anyway, I was religious at the time. And he had great respect for me because I was religious. I told him I used to go to church all the time. And I never preached my religion. But he one day he said to me, what would you do if I beat you up? I said, I'd go to the police. And he was quite satisfied with that answer. Thank goodness it was the right answer. I would hate to be beaten up by him because if he beats someone up, he really does beat them up. He saw this rich man come out of the car, not out of the car. He saw this rich man come out of Hamleys and go to the car, and he was with a big black man who was obviously the bouncer. And he said he wanted to follow them, beat up the bouncer and take the man's money. I told him one day, you're such a tough fellow and you don't have any fear. Why don't you become a boxer? And he said if he became a boxer and he lost a fight, he'd be waiting for the fellow outside to beat them up. Even if he had to use a weapon, he didn't care. That person was going to go down one way or another. But anyway, we had a great time, as I said. We used to pick up the van. Oh, I must tell you, eventually he did get the sack from the job. I think they was downsizing. They just didn't have enough work, maybe, I don't know. But he knocked the fellow out who sacked him at work, the manager. He knocked him. One punch. And we used to get a lot of jobs. Some of them were private, some of them were with really rich people we had to move. And also a lot of council places we went to, flats. I hate council flats because you've got to walk up. Well, you don't walk up the stairs, you either take the stairs at 3 or 4 at a time or you run up. You don't walk up slowly when you're working because you've got to get through. Say you've got to move, let's say, 4 council tenants in one day. You've got to work fast. And I just like the council tenants because a lot of them are so lazy. They don't prepare for moving at all. Nothing's prepared. It's carry on as usual, so to speak. So you go there and there's all this crap around, and really these types, they're so lazy. There's lots of toys and everything, just a jumble of rubbish everywhere, and they want it all moved to the van. So what you do in that situation, you just take the drawers out of the furniture, and if they're half empty, you fill them up with all the junk. Because in those sort of places, when they take something out of a drawer, they don't put it back, they just drop it on the floor. So you fill up the drawers and you take the drawers down, and hopefully the lift's working. If it isn't, you have to take it by hand. So you might take 2 or 3, maybe two or three drawers at a time, depending how heavy and how big they are. No, actually, I remember what we used to do now. We used to fill the drawers up, put them back into the piece of furniture, and then 2 of us would carry that furniture down the stairs. That's how we used to do it. But also we used to put the blankets out on the floor and just throw everything in a blanket, tie it up, and then one of us would take that down while we fill up another blanket with all the crap. That was a good way of getting rid of the emptying the flat. And of course the people what we were moving, they didn't give a damn. They really didn't care. No sense of pride. I'll never forget one day, I grabbed the TV because we was moving these people to another place, and I grabbed the TV and walked away, and the cord was tied to something. It was stuck in the van, and it pulled the TV right out of my hands. It just fell to the floor and smashed. And it was only after a few minutes they told me they'd deliberately done that, and it was just an old TV. It was going to be thrown away anyway. But I never forget, the work was so hard. We used to stop first thing in the morning. We'd go straight to the cafe, and in those days you could stop anywhere on the streets. There wasn't all these yellow lines and parking meters everywhere. You could stop in most places and go in and have your breakfast. It might take 30 or 40 minutes to sit there talking, having breakfast. We used to have a big breakfast. I think I was a meat eater in those days, so I used to have, let's say, it would be fried egg, bacon, fried beans, mushroom, 2 toast, and tea. And everyone else would have the same, no doubt. There was this camaraderie between us all. It was, it was nice. Nice it was, very nice. But when you go to some of these places and you see how well they can live, some of these people, and how sophisticated they are. And normally the men, the rich men, had very good looking wives. So you can imagine where our minds were when we was picking up the furniture. They were on her, you know. It might be a beautiful blonde in a tight dress or something. I don't like the way the girls dress today in these leotards. You can see everything. Not that that matters to me, but for me it's just it's not sexual at all. Me seeing this tightness where everything stands out, it just looks ridiculous, badly dressed. And just a reminder, if you like my videos, please give me a thumbs up and hit the subscribe button. Thank you. I remember I used to tell the boss, the manager there, that the brakes are hopeless on the van, on the lorry, and they refused to change the bloody things because it costs money, you see. And they probably thought, well, as he's been driving it now for a week or 2 weeks or a month or whatever it is, just leave him to carry on. And the trouble is, if I had a crash in that thing, it would be down to me, the brakes. They would take me to court, the police, not the owners. Even though I complained to the owners, it should be changed. See, as far as the court's concerned, they would say that I should have refused to drive that lorry. But if I refuse to drive the lorry, I'm going to lose the job. It's not fair putting the onus on the drivers, the workers. We live hand to mouth. We wasn't getting a huge pay packet. When we used to work for the rich people, we would get some money from them as a tip, but that wasn't much. It might buy us breakfast each. It was nice. They used to quite often make the tea, make us a cup of tea. That was good. We'd sit down for 5 minutes, have a drink of tea in the middle of work. And in those days, of course, we would stop for lunch break. We'd go to a cafe and have lunch. And there was cafes in those days everywhere. And as I said, you could stop virtually outside the place. No worry about parking fines.